Hey everybody, Mo here, and today I'm bringing you guys the first Meta Monday of the new expansion World Wakers, or World Walkers. I think it's World Walkers. Yeah, this will be the first Meta Monday for World Walkers, and because we, one, we don't even have a full week's worth of data yet to really go through, and two, the first week's meta is always kind of skewed for play rate because it's a lot of times just people playing the new stuff, regardless if it's actually good or not, because people are just excited to play with new cards, and that's very fair. So for the purpose of this video, for the purpose of the Meta Mondays, to try to give you guys an idea of how things are going, I'm just going to go through, I filtered it here through win rate instead of through play rate. So these aren't the most played decks of the current patch, but instead I'm going to give you guys what is performing the best in the for the first couple days of this upcoming expansion. So I have it filtered by win rate here. So we're gonna go over the 8 most played decks, and usually the best decks that perform well are gonna be like aggro decks. But I looked through the top 8, and it's actually kind of surprising that it's not just a bunch of aggro decks smoking you down. So very cool, very excited to go through this. But before we get into the Meta Monday, I wanted to remind you guys that 72% of the people that watch my videos aren't actually subscribed to me. So if you guys could do me a huge favor and click that subscribe button, where I think we're like 60 subs away from 6,000 subscribers, which is absolutely insane. Every time I look at that number, I'm just baffled. Like, I cannot believe I have 6,000, almost 6,000 subscribers. Like, you guys are insane, man. I appreciate every comment, every sub, every thing like that you guys do for me. It makes this a lot more fun. I'm glad I could give you guys the content you enjoy. So that's it for the intro. Let's get into the Meta Monday. So to start things off with, probably the least surprising thing is we're going to start off with an aggro style deck. Whoa, what is this? It's not aggro. Yeah, well, I saw this immediately and I was like, oh, this is just some like super scuffed spiders, like, fearsome aggro list with the highest win rate in the game right now. And then I open it up. What is this? It's not aggro at all. It's playing Hunted Tomb. Like, what is this? This is a Legion Deserter Hydrovine Viego deck that's playing Disintegrates and Vile Feast and Atrocities. I was like, this deck is sick. This deck is so sick. I might just have to make a video on it tomorrow. So if you guys want to see me make a video on this deck, on any of these decks, let me know down in the comments below. But yeah, this deck looks absolutely insane, and I'll probably try and play it a little bit here. So this is just looks like a pile of good cards, right? Like, you have some good stun cards, you get your Ravenous Flock removal, you have your big win game, your big end game win cons with like Viego, Deserter, Hydrovine. All of these are now good win conditions. You have Haunted Tomb that just straight up says like revive the strongest dead ally, so you could have 2 Viegos in play really easily. You could get like a second Hydrovine, like, come back alive. Like, this card is absolutely insane. This card is beyond fucking broken. Like, this card is absolutely nuts. So I'm super excited that it's already found a home. It's already found a home in a deck like this. So this is the most winning deck right now, the highest win rate deck in all of LoR. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of bookmark this because I think I'm about to play this for a little bit and upload a video for it for you guys. Second deck here is Garrett, Jarvan, Alawi. So this is an Alawi deck. A lot of people have found out that Alawi is really good with Demacia. You take these really big tentacle units, you take really big Alawi, these big units, and then you just put them with really good combat spells like the Sharp Sight, the Cataclysm, the Concerted Strike. Lo and behold, deck is really good. So I think the original version of Alawi Demacia was, I think it was like Alawi Lux, was the really big, like, hyped up deck. I know I put a video out on that yesterday, because I really like the Lux version, because Lux is better into the small Demacia, or the small mid-range, and the aggro decks, because Lux Laser is really good into removing a bunch of units, so you can kind of get like 2-for-1s. But if you're going to be going against a lot of like bigger mid-range, like for instance the Garen and Jarvan mirror matches, and people just playing like the Jarvans or the Fated, then Jarvan's going to be better for that, and then like the one-up Twisted Fate, because that helps you kind of get rid of the really big threats, either by stalling it with the Twisted Fate gold card, which we'll get to down here in a minute, or the Jarvan, pulling it to the side and getting a really big open attack is really good against like control also. And then Garrett is here again just to be really good against control and other big mid-range. It just gives you a rally every turn, and control cannot deal with that. That's one of the biggest issues with the mid-range deck, especially like the Lux version, is the Lux version doesn't play rally or anything. You just play some Cataclysms. So if you're not doing exactly like Cataclysm onto Alawi, then you don't really have any reach, any end game finisher. Whereas with Garen, they can chump block Garen a couple times, sure, but after a couple times your Garen's leveled, and then now the control opponent has to like deal with a rally every single turn, and that's not really easy to do. So Alawi mid-range, really good. It's actually going to pop up twice here. Like I said, oh, it's going to pop up 3 times. Holy. Yeah, it pops up 3 times, and it's the 4th one, too. So Alawi's pretty good. I think Alawi was super underrated by, like, everybody. I think everyone was saying, oh, Alawi looks mid. Alawi's mid. It's not exciting. And then lo and behold, the first week goes by, and it's, like, the 2nd most winning deck, the 6th highest win rate, 7th highest win rate, 9th highest, 10th highest win rate. God, it just keeps going. Like, this deck is absolutely silly, man. Or this card, like, this Alawi package with Demacia is what Demacia needed to become a real region. So, really super excited for that. Deck number 3 is Lux Jace. So, another Demacia mid-range deck. This plays a bunch of early games, so this version is playing like the Forge Chief, so this is to help you out against aggro. But, all in all, this is very much just like the Lux Jace I used to play, except I played a couple Portal Cannons. And yeah, this has the 1 rally. So this plays back-to-back instead of 4 Demacia, which when you're playing Portal Cannon, it's all the same because you really just care about the elusives getting in. But yeah, this has the same idea of like you can nut out like a turn 5 back-to-back plus rally if you have a Forge of Tomorrow in play, and you can get it for Demacia also obviously from Vanguard Sergeant. So you can turn 5 rally or 4 Demacia plus rally, and that's really silly. Especially with like Forge Chief also gives it to you. A bunch of crazy stuff you can do. So it's just a really good mid-range deck that kind of beats aggro unit-based decks. It doesn't beat Burn because this deck isn't aggressive enough to really race down Burn. And then it doesn't have any ways to gain life. So once Burn units kind of deal their damage, all they need to do is go like decimate, you know, Cask Salesman. And there you go. That's like half of your HP that you literally cannot interact with. So really good against the aggro unit-based decks, not very good against the burn-based decks. So let's see. Number 4 here is Jace Heimer. So this is going to be another Jace deck. So Jace, really good. But this version has a lot of healing in it. So this deck is going to be a lot better into just all the types of generalized aggro, including burn and unit-based, because it plays things like the Piercing Darkness, plays things like the Vile Feast. Of course, Piercing Darkness can get beat out by like exactly Noxie Fervor, but if you Piercing Darkness your own unit, and that's something a lot of people don't know about, it's really hard for the aggro decks to deal with that. So if you Piercing Darkness like your Heimerdinger, like yes, you're killing off the Heimer, but you're gaining 5 life, and that's really good. And you'll still get the 6 mana spell from the Heimerdinger because of the way the play cast change worked, is you can Piercing Darkness, target your Heimerdinger, get an elusive turret, and gain, 5 HP, which is pretty silly. But something we've noticed, or we'll go over at the end here, is every deck so far has been a mid-range deck. Like, even this has been a mid-range deck. Some people might confuse this with a control deck, but it's not. It's a mid-range deck. So we are definitely moving more into a mid-range meta. Actually, every deck except for 1 in this top 8 list is mid-range, which, again, we'll go over more in the end-game screen, but that's just something you guys might want to, take note on. Pantheon, Faded. So, Faded, no surprises in the top for the win rate. I mean, I don't think this is playing a single new card. Not a single thing has changed in this deck. It's literally just Faded being Faded. Faded keyword is absolutely broken. And as long as any of the Faded units get, like, any amount of stats, it's super broken. Or have any amount of stats, it's broken. So, like, this thing should be a 0-1. Like, Saga Seeker could be a 0-2. I think that might still be too strong. But could easily be a 0-1. Probably 0-2 is the most balanced thing for it. And this thing could easily be, like, a 1-3. Or, like, a 0-3. Or something. Like, the fact that this is getting +2/+2 every turn is kind of crazy. So, you can make this thing a 0-3 easily. 1-3 if you're, like, super scared about it. But probably a 0-3 is just as fine. That's the only way you can make Faded balance, really, is just taking the Faded units themselves and just taking their stat line and just throwing it into the fucking dirt. And that's the only way Faded will ever be balanced. But we do have some cards kind of balancing out Faded. Like, we have Disintegrate here is, let me see here. So we have, like, Disintegrate is kind of doing okay. Of course, your Hard Vengeance is doing fine against it. So that's probably one of the reasons why this deck is being so good, and we'll talk about it at the end there, is because it does so well into mid-range. Number 6 is another Alawi variant. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. It's just like every other Alawi variant. Looks like this one's playing a little bit more anti-aggro with a couple of Radiant Guardians in here. It has a couple Nagakaboros in for the late game finisher. Seems pretty neat. Answered prayers. Yep. Everything looks pretty standard outside of, has some Radiant Guardian, some Nagakaboros. So yeah, very cool. Just another Alawi variant. Another Alawi variant, not really going to go over this one. This one plays a Twisted Fate in instead of the triple Jarvan that we saw previously. It plays one Twisted Fate. Twisted Fate is just a really fucking good card. So it can be anti-aggro by, board wiping with red card. If you're against control, it can draw you a card. If you're against another mirror match, or another, like, mid-range deck, like Faded or anything like that, you can gold card to go ahead and stun the opponent's blocker or attacker. So, very cool. You don't see any, what's her name? You don't see any of the life gain girl in this. What's her name? Forgot her name. I don't know names. I call her Sarah Angel. Radiant Guardian. I always call her Angel Bitch, but yeah, Radiant Guardian. So there's no Radiant Guardians in this one. So again, there's no way to gain life. So once you're kind of at that low life total, any amount of burn can just kill you. But you play a decent amount of early game units. You play Hired Gun to help you in the mirror match. You play, Petricite to help you in the early game. You play a bunch of good, like 2 mana unit, 3 mana unit, stuff like that. So, and with the Twisted Fate, you probably shouldn't be getting smorked down by going wide too often, because Twisted Fate red card should kind of clean up a lot of that early game. And then number 8 is Scouts. I don't think Scouts is playing a single new card, and it's basically just Scouts taking advantage of people trying out new stuff. The really surprising thing is that it's not very high up, and here's why. Scouts is really good into control decks and aggro decks. The only deck type that's consistently beat Scouts over the history of LoR, the history of Scouts being alive, has been bigger Demacia decks. So we see here, of course, the worst matchup is not going to be too, there's not going to be too many here because the play rate isn't the highest, but let's look at worst matchups. Oh, Demacia midrange, just bigger midrange. That's not very true. It's like, okay, this is good because it kills everything. Big midrange. So it's like, the things that kill, outside of whatever, I don't know who's losing. If you're losing the Thralls matchup with Scouts, you should just stop playing Scouts. That I'll be blunt. Just stop playing Scouts. Go play something brain dead like Thralls or something. But yeah, so the thing that Scouts loses to a lot are bigger mid-range decks. And guess what? We're in. The top 7 most winning decks, like with the highest win rate, are all just big mid-range decks, which is very impressive. And that's why I believe this deck is doing so well, is because it's a big mid-range deck just like every other deck, but this is the mid-range deck, the anti-mid-range deck, because you get to play the Ravenous Flocks, because you get to play the Disintegrates, because you get to play the Vengeance. You're playing mid-range decks like these guys are, except you're playing cards that auto-kill their Jarvan, cards that auto-kill their Pantheon, cards that auto-kill their very big units, whereas they don't have many cards that could auto-kill you. And all of these decks, I think we see like 2 Concerted Strikes at most, 2 Concerted Strikes, some Smash of Tentacles. What does this one have? Like 2 Concerted Strikes, Oh, that one has a couple Vengeance. It's like 1 Concerted Strike, So these decks don't have really 2 Concerted Strikes, 3 Tentacle Smash. So if you can keep these Alawi's decks tentacles at, a decent size, by trading into them and stuff like that, then all you really have to worry about is like 1 to 2 Concerted Strikes. Anything after that you don't care about. And then even if they do spend some of their like very little removal on if they draw it and use it on your units, you just Haunted Tomb it back. And if they kill your Hydrovine, you say, who cares? You Haunted Tomb it back. If they kill your Viego, you say, who cares? You Haunted Tomb it back. Like, this brings back any large, your biggest ally that's died. So if you slam down Viego on turn 5, not much is going to be bigger than a turn 5 Viego. So you go, Viego turn 5, they kill it, you go, okay, turn 6 Haunted Tomb. Okay. And then you just don't play your Hydrovite on turn 7, because on turn 6, 6 to 7, it counts down. You don't play your Hydrovite. And then on 7 to 8, it makes a Viego for you on your upkeep, and then you just go, okay, now I'll play my Hydrovine. The reason you don't want to play Hydrovine first is because if they also have a way to kill Hydrovine, then, Haunted Tombs brings back that. But even if you want to do that, that's still really good, right? Like, you play Hydrovine, they kill it, you go, okay, next turn, immediately bring back my Hydrovine, and your opponent has to deal with it again. That's absolutely crazy. The fact that you have to, like, you can spend 3 mana to just get back a 7 mana card. This card is, like, so ridiculous. So this is the deck I'll probably be playing. I think I might go jam some games with this real quick. I might go make a YouTube video for you guys. Yeah, it's the anti mid-range deck. It's absolutely insane. We're very much in a huge mid-range meta. So anyone that complains about this meta, every time I see people complain about the meta, they're like, oh, I miss old Runeterra. I miss when it was mid-range. Like, when mid-range is good, Runeterra is good. Like, we are literally in a mid-range meta. Like, every good deck right now is a mid-range deck. The only exception to good decks that aren't mid-range decks are Thralls, and then, like, some type of Jin Annie Burn deck. But Jin Annie Burn is really good. But if you don't play it well, you could easily lose to some of these other mid-range decks. So you have to actually, like, I know people meme about, like, oh, aggro Brave that just play cards, silly, deal like target face with cards. But in all honesty, if you don't play your burn deck well, and all you do is slam cards down, and you don't try and push every single point of damage, like maximize your efficiency, you'll probably lose to a lot of these mid-range decks. More often than you would think, you know, an aggro deck would lose to mid-range. So you have to make sure you're really playing aggro well and trying to be extremely efficient with every single card, get maximum damage out of every single card, and then you can probably beat aggro or beat these mid-range decks. So even then, you have one like combo deck in Thralls, you have one aggro deck in Burn, and then outside of that, you have every other mid-range deck in the game, which is pretty silly. So it's really cool, really excited to see. No one should be complaining about this meta. If you like mid-range decks, this is your meta to be in. You know, I see a lot of content creators talk about how, oh, LoR is only good when mid-range is good. Here you go. This is the meta to show you that either all you like to do is complain about LoR, or, you know, you don't really actually like mid-range if you think this meta is bad right now. Because I think this meta is great. This is honestly the best patch we've had since Bilgewater. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that Riot doesn't have to spend their resources and time creating new regions and these new concepts and stuff. So now that we finally have all of our regions, they're going to spend a lot more time allocated to, you know, revitalizing old archetypes like they did with Starspring, Deep, Lurk, KEKW, stuff like that. And also, we kind of just get more, you know, maybe we'll see even more champions like revisited, like when they saw the Udyr change. Maybe we'll see more champions change, stuff like that. So I'm really excited looking at LoR. But this was your top 8 highest win rate decks for the newest patch to kind of give you an idea of what's doing well, what's winning. I'm going to go spam some games on Katarina Elise Viego. So if you want to see this deck play out wondering, oh, this deck looks bad, how does it win? Check out tomorrow here. Make sure to subscribe and make sure to subscribe, turn notifications on, all that type of stuff, so you can get a notification when my video goes live showing off this apparently super broken deck with the highest win rate in the game right now. So that's going to be it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.